Good morning, and welcome to Breakaway Funding's monthly educational webinar series, and our installment this month, The Rules of Engagement, Making the Most of Private Equity and Crowdfunding Regulations. Thank you all for coming. I'm Scott Bowman, Director of Communications at Breakaway Funding. During the webinar this morning, if you'd like to raise your hand, please click on the hand icon on your control panel in the upper left portion of your screen. If you'd like to ask a question during the presentation, and we do encourage you to do this, please type your question in the chat box on your control panel. We'll address questions as they come in or during the Q&A period. And now, I'd like to introduce you to our host this morning, Kim Castellanos. Kim is our founder and managing partner here at Breakaway Funding, and it gives me great pleasure to bring her to you now. Kim?
Well, good morning, and thank you, Scott. We are delighted you are in what should be another informative and lively discussion about private equity regulation. Before we get started, we would like to get a sense of who is in the audience today. So by a quick show of cyber responses, please take a moment to type into the chat box in which capacity are you attending today, as an investor, an advisor, or an entrepreneur. Again, please type one of those three options into the chat box, and Scott will share those results with us momentarily. As was mentioned, I am the founder and managing partner of Breakaway Funding, LLC. We are an online capital raising and private equity investing platform operated by former bankers. We are the creators of an emerging capital market we refer to as community capital, the engagement of all members of the community, entrepreneurs, investors, and community financial institutions collaborating to provide growth capital to entrepreneurs to propel innovation, job creation, and new investment opportunities for investors. We are about inclusion, equal access to information and private equity investments for those who desire to participate. And to that end, we bring these free educational webinars to you once each month to help build your knowledge base and confidence as investors and entrepreneurs. We also present online monthly pitch parties where companies seeking capital have a forum through which they may share with you their stories, their business plans, and how they intend to convert your investment dollars to fuel the local economy and provide economic returns to you. Please join us each month to see what new and exciting information and investment opportunities have become available.
Here is a tombstone that's pretty bad. It's a pretty bad tombstone. The product is pretty questionable too, cinnamon hot dogs. But you know, here it talks about it being a great market opportunity. The return is guaranteed, and you can never guarantee a return in the sale of securities. That is just a blatant violation of the Securities Act. They're forward-looking statements that haven't been qualified. So here's just a general summary page of what we talked about today. And again, I know there was a lot of information that we gave you. There's a lot. It's very definitional, heavy, and you know there's a lot of terminology that may be confusing to you. But really, when you start out with your capital raise, you got to really figure out how much do you want to raise, number one, and who do you want to raise it from. Do you have friends and family that can get involved, or are you trying to access a broader investor pool? Lastly, how do you want to raise it? Do you want to raise it? If you can raise it from friends and families and people you have a pre-existing relationship, then there shouldn't be a problem fitting it under a 506 or a California exemption. However, the problem starts to arise when you need to access a broader investor pool, and you need to qualify the investor pool and figure out who in the investor pool can participate and how you're going to reach them. So that's really a distillation of what we're talking about in terms of these exemptions. Here's a slide that gives you a little bit of a summary as to in order to help you make these kinds of determinations. Are there any questions?
Thank you, Khoi. I have this question from John.
Okay.
Do retirement assets count toward the net worth threshold? What about real estate? Does it only count equity in the property, or personal residence, and other?
The net worth test excludes the primary residence, but it includes every other asset. That goes for both the accredited investor and the qualified investor test. Usually, before the recent amendments, the definition of accredited investor, the $1 million test, included the primary residence, but it was recently amended, or was amended a couple of years ago to do away with that, do away with including the primary residence when you're determining the net worth.
Great, thank you. And this is, we have one final question. What is the best way to incorporate foreign investors? Are there special rules, and how's that done?
Well, foreign investors under these exemptions would be treated, unless you're trying to fit entirely within a California exemption that's limited only to California residents, such as a 25102N. Foreign investors, these offerings would be open to foreign investors without any issues.
Do you need to have a specific, like I understand Reg S is for foreign investors. Are there any additional filings that are required to include foreign investors or any other
Reg S,
together?
No, there's everything. In order to qualify a foreign investor, the thing is, foreign investors aren't really subject to U.S. laws when they are investing in. They're not subject to the protections of U.S. securities laws, really. When you had mentioned Reg S. Reg S is entirely outside of the United States, the type of offering where you are offering only to, foreign investors, and the securities will rest outside of the U.S. or intended to rest outside of the U.S. So that's really difficult given the fluidity of securities transactions. Reg S offerings are very difficult to qualify. But in terms of foreign investors investing in these types of investments, there isn't really any limitation. There isn't really a need to qualify foreign investors. Only under the
the California.
Yeah. Well, if in terms of the 505 and 506 offerings, when you are limiting your offer and sale to 35 sophisticated and non-accredited investors, because foreign investors don't really benefit from the protections of federal and state securities laws, they're really not counted into the 35 in that 35 number. So if foreign investors would meet the definition of sophisticated, they wouldn't be included in that 35 limit.
Sounds like a topic for a whole nother webinar.
Yeah.
So I think that's going to wrap it up for us today. I hope you have enjoyed today's presentation. I know I'm always appreciate a refresher when it comes to regulatory matters. As we've seen, it's a big old bowl of alphabet soup. But they do say that knowledge is power. So if that's true, I believe it is, today we are all even more powerful. To recap a few of today's messages for the entrepreneurs, you have choices when it comes to raising capital. Understanding those choices can help you make better decisions about which path is best suited for your needs. There are important opportunities and restrictions for each choice, which can help make better decisions about which path is best suited for you. There are important, how much you can raise varies between exemption, how much you can invest varies between each invention, who can invest, and how you can market all varies. So understanding these nuances and the consequences of violating any of these specific provisions is critical to the success and a lawful capital raise. For investors, understanding the rules helps you determine not only which investment opportunities you are legally eligible to participate, but it also gives you an idea of who you might be investing alongside: accredited, unaccredited, sophisticated, qualified, and in the case of Breakaway Funding's community capital model, maybe even the banks. And for you advisors out there, I hope today's event added to your overall knowledge base. I would like to take a moment again to thank our presenters for helping us gain a better understanding of the regulatory landscape. Yes, we know it isn't sexy, but definitely worth getting to know. We will be sending you the post-webinar link so that you may review this presentation at your leisure. We will also be sending you a brief survey to provide us feedback of this event. We appreciate your taking a moment to complete that. And we invite you to register on our site at breakawayfunding.com to learn more about local private investing opportunities that await your investment capital and or to learn more how to raise growth capital for your company. As I mentioned earlier, our educational webinar next month is entitled 1 + 1 = 3 IRAs and Your Investment Tax Strategy, brought to us by It will be held on March the 26th. Same time, same channel, 11 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. Again, thank you all for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you next month.